Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy this morning. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's little topic. I've kind of been like poking you to get into this. So today we're going to be talking about more in-depth aspects of human design. So far beyond, your foundational reading. When you come in and you have it, it's overwhelming as it is, but this topic is so big, there's even more information. So Mr. Hartwell, can you tell us what other kinds of information or layers does human design have that we can dive into?
Sure, Kris. And that's why we put the chart of Queen Elizabeth here, because it
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of information in the left margin that is not covered in the foundational reading, and really it doesn't become useful until you've had that introduction and been working with your own design for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at the chart, if you look at the body graph, you'll notice up to around the head there are these circles with arrows pointing in different direction, and that is something called variable in human design, and it's oh how do we explain it? This has to do with the way that we interact with the world, and it arises from a deeper level. It arises from the level beneath the line um, of the chart,
Mm-hmm.
and it points to the way that our cognition works, you could say, and how we're designed at a deeper level
Mm-hmm.
than just the well, I don't want to say just, but the foundation level that we look at.
Right, right. So, can you tell us more about the variable? So, how many variations are there, of the variables?
Yeah. Well, there are 16 possible variations.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we're looking at it, if we're looking at Queen Elizabeth's chart, if you look to the left side of the head, you'll see at the top the L, and that represents left. And beneath it, you see right. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the bottom, and if you go over to the other side of the head, on the bottom, you see right. And then at the top, you see right.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of you read it in a U, and it's left, right, right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 16 possible combinations because you can be left or right in each of those places. And
Right.
so what leftness is, we live in a very left world right now, and left is a kind of cognition that sees the world as strategic, active, and focused.
Mm-hmm.
So people who are very very left, they are very purpose driven, they are very focused in their approach to life. And the
Mm-hmm.
right variable is about being receptive rather than strategic, passive rather than active, and peripheral rather than focused. So
Mm-hmm.
receptive, passive, and peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
Receptive means taking things in without, just like a sponge.
Mm-hmm.
And passive again, kind of, um, it happens kind of on its own. And peripheral means broad, not arrowed in on something, but taking in a wide spectrum of sensation or
Mm-hmm.
perception. So
Right.
those are the basic meanings of left and right, and each of us are some combination of those.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I know that that was one of the things for me that I found very helpful when having my human design reading, for example. I always used to say, well, why can't I function like everybody else and just retain all this information and keep it? And then you gave me my reading and you said, oh, you're a well. And then when you need it, you'll pull it out, but you don't, have to
Yeah,
carry it around all the time. So that was like a really big thing because I always used to feel like I wasn't retaining information, but there's
yeah.
just because I retain too much, right? There's not enough room. So Cool.
Yeah, it's, if the world has a bias towards people who are strategic and focused at the moment,
Mhm. Yeah.
human design does suggest we're evolving into, we're going through a slow evolution back towards the right,
Hmm.
which will be much more on the, for lack of a better word, or spiritual.
Hmm. Awesome. So can we move on from that, and then you can talk about the determination. So what is the determination, and can you give us some examples of it?
Yes. So underneath, once you start looking at variable, it leads inevitably towards what are called the four transformations:
Hmm.
determination, environment, perspective, and motivation.
Hmm.
And determination and environment are related to the design side of our charts, the body side.
Hmm.
So in human design, if you were to get a PHS reading, which is
Hmm.
primary health system, you'd be
Hmm.
getting a reading that had a lot to do with the determination and environment. Okay.
Hmm.
And once you have been in your experiment for a while,
Hmm.
then you may start feeling and being naturally drawn to the proper way of eating. So, determination is actually about how do we nurture the brain. And on the chart of Queen Elizabeth, you can see where it says in green on the left column, you see it says design, and underneath that, you see brain and
Hmm.
determination and environment. So, how do we what does the physical, I'm talking, when I talk brain, I'm talking about the physical brain. Okay.
Hmm.
And what does it require in order to be properly nourished, in order to
Hmm.
be properly cared for? What
Hmm.
kind of diet?
Hmm.
Now, immediately when we think of diet, we think of, oh, I'm gluten sensitive, or, I'm
Hmm.
lactose intolerant. We think about dietary measures.
Right.
But what human design suggests is it's not so much what we eat, it's how we
Hmm.
eat.
How we
So,
take it into our bodies.
yes.
Hmm.
What are the conditions, when we're eating, what are the conditions that, what are the conditions that exist around us when we're eating? So
Hmm.
it's kind of an interesting take.
Hmm. So
Um,
can you give us an example of?
yes.
Mhm.
So, for instance, some people need to eat things that are really hot, and
Mhm.
yet other people are better off eating lukewarm or cool foods.
Mhm.
Other people do best when they eat in direct light, when
Mhm.
it's sunny out. But there are some people who need to be eating in the dark or in the shade.
Mhm.
So that presents, so there are different variations there.
Oh, that's really interesting. I know for myself, I found that interesting. It's something else that I have to get back to as well. So I know mine has to do with temperature. So, which I
Mhm.
find interesting because I believe that I'm not supposed to eat hot, but supposed to eat cold and lukewarm. And I don't like my food really, really hot. Like even a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, I always have to let it cool down. So I think it's probably natural to us to try and gravitate towards our design. Um, so it
Yeah.
seems, yeah.
Well, human design would suggest that as you come into alignment through strategy and authority, you would
Hmm.
begin to discover these things
Hmm.
um, in terms of just following your natural inclinations. This
Hmm.
isn't something necessarily to, oh my God, I need to rush out and get a PHS reading and find out, under what conditions I eat. Because
Hmm.
if you're not following strategy and authority, that's just going to be your not self mind causing you to do stuff.
Right.
So, what is your strategy telling you to do? Is it
Hmm.
interested in you having a PHS reading? Is it interested in you having a human design reading? Do you even
Hmm.
know enough? If you haven't had a human design reading, you won't even know yet really what
Hmm.
your strategy and authority would be.
Exactly. So can you
So
talk? Go ahead.
let's, our time is running out. So let me
Yeah.
So let me continue. So
Yeah.
environment is derived from the north and the nodal positions on the design side of the chart.
Mm-hmm.
The the determination came from the sun and the earth, but the
Mm-hmm.
environment has to do with um, what are the natural places that what are the kind of environments, the physical environments that would nurture you.
Mm-hmm.
And in being nourished by those environments, you would also find, you'd be more inclined to find the right people and to
Mm-hmm.
feel more relaxed in your body and to, in a sense, be in sync with your inherent design.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty interesting thing too. And
Yeah.
and you know, if for an example of things there, you could be maybe you need to live in high places.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what's good for you. Maybe you need to live on the boundaries of things, which is called shores. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and you could be it could be artificial shores, which means the boundaries between different environments, like say
Mm-hmm.
the edge of the suburb, which is the boundary between the country and the city.
Right.
Or sometimes it can be, literal shores,
Mm-hmm.
being good on living on rivers or on ocean, near an
Mm-hmm.
ocean.
Right.
But it's important that we don't literalize it too much
Mm-hmm.
because, um, you don't literally have to run off to the ocean and live there. That's not what
Right.
it
Not what it means, but it does for some people.
potentially,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, The next variable, which is now arising from the personality side, is called um, perspective. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going in the order that it unfolds in us.
Mm-hmm.
Once you follow strategy and authority, then you can start looking at diet.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have your diet down, it begins. You might be drawn to, and it becomes relevant to do the environment thing. And
Right.
now, it unfolds in a natural sequence.
Mm-hmm.
The motivation, sorry, not motivation, perspective is about what do you see when you look out on the world? What
Mm-hmm.
is it right for you to be seeing?
Right.
Um, as you become more aligned, you start to find what is your true perspective. What
Mm-hmm.
does it look like to look through the world through Chris's eyes?
Mm-hmm.
What is meant to be your view? What is meant to be Queen Elizabeth's view when she looks out on the world?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's something that feels a lot, it's harder to talk about, and I don't know as much because, as I say, I'm in my own process of becoming more
Mm-hmm.
familiar.
Yeah.
And the perspective also talks about the distraction. So
Mm-hmm.
become on that level, you become aware of what should my true view be and
Mm-hmm.
what can potentially distract me from my true way of seeing.
Ah,
And
interesting.
finally, yeah, and finally we come to the motivation,
Mm-hmm.
which is the way the mind works.
Mm-hmm.
What is the underlying motivation of your particular design, and what is the potential transference that takes you off track? So these are
Right.
pretty cool things.
Right.
Um, so when you're in alignment, you're going to be, say, looking at the world through fear, for Queen Elizabeth, for instance.
Right.
Fear doesn't mean that. Fear means that you investigate. Fear means is that you are meant to you get to the bottom of things and investigate them in order to relieve your fear.
Mm-hmm.
But the transferred motivation is need. So if you approach the world motivated through need, oh, I need this, oh, I need that,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to take you in a not self direction. So for projectors especially, the motivation can be a useful thing to learn early on, even though it's one
Mm-hmm.
of the things that unfolds last.
Right.
Just because it helps us follow our own strategy, which is to be invited,
Mm-hmm.
to wait for the invitation. So there's a lot here. It's very profound.
Yeah.
Um, and we tease it here because why not?
Well, I mean, we've had lots of customers that have had like their basic reading and now want more information and they want to go deeper into themselves. And like I know you and I talk all the time, and it is something that is done in layers, right? You need to do that foundation before you can understand the next layer or the next offering that human design has, right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
so it becomes right for you to engage with that, when your strategy and authority suggests that it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to emphasize, Kris, and because you're
Mm-hmm.
one of my students, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and all those people who might be interested in listening to these, is that um, if you're really feeling resonant to this information, start paying attention to your own experience, your own strategy, your own authority. That's where it all begins, and that is always going to be the thing that we come back to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is like any. I don't know if Rob would have called it a spiritual path. He might have,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like any spiritual path. You have to pay attention to the steps,
Right.
uh, and really, it's when we go through these four transformations and get to motivation. What it really, Rob was saying. I was listening to a video of his the other night. It's really about awakening. It's about
Mm-hmm.
awakening. So, you really could put it in the spiritual category to
Right.
become awake and to see the world through your own eyes, your own unique giftedness.
Yeah, we're supposed to be the witness, right?
Yes. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
thank you, Kris. Look at you how spot on you are because the witness consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
passenger consciousness is what human design calls it.
Mm-hmm.
It fully flowers once we are able to, get to the level of understanding our motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. How wonderful. I wanted to mention something else before we sign off here, and that is Hartwell's offering consultations as well, counseling sessions, because once we have our basic foundational human design reading, we all have questions because it's so much information. So this is something new that he's offering to people. If you choose to go more in depth and study yourself more or have more understanding, or you've forgotten something, or you need to just have somebody to talk to about it, you can book a session with Hartwell and come in and explore your chart some more. You can talk about some of these additional things that are being delved into, and we'd be happy to see you again. So with that, I think next week you said we were doing circuitry, right?
We will, yeah, we'll bring up that topic and
Mm-hmm.
and look at it a bit for sure.
Okay, sounds good. So with that, we'll say God bless, love you all, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.
For now.